So there's that expression, everything comes in God's own good time, and I am feeling some divine timing this morning for a bunch of reasons, some which you may be feeling and some which you're going to discover a little later. There is anger in the air this morning, and there is a lot of love in this room this morning, and there is fear, and there is confusion, and there are conflicted feelings, and this is when we need to be together. On mornings just like this. And even if you hadn't heard the news yet about the not guilty verdict for Mr. Zimmerman, I would ask you, if you were here this morning, if you had lost your temper in the last month or week or 24 hours or on the way here or out in the foyer or in the pews. No, stop it. Stop now. So, no matter why you're here, you've come to the right place this morning. And I'm glad to be here with you. And I'm going to start with a little story. It's a story that came to me by word of mouth, which is a little dangerous to tell from the pulpit because I couldn't ask the woman in the story for her permission to tell it. So if you are here this morning and if I get a lot wrong, please tell me. And I beg your pardon, ask your forgiveness in advance. But a few Sundays ago, this member of our church was coming in the front door with her daughter, who was about 9 years old. And the daughter made her mom stop in front of the sign inside the door, the sign announcing our summer sermon series on the 7 deadly sins. She stopped her mom and she said, "Mom, look, the ministers are sinners. Look, they're telling us what their sins are." "What do you mean, darling? That can't be right." Then she looked again and more closely at the large sandwich board her daughter was pointing at. "See? Their pictures are next to their sins. Marlin's sin is pride, and Tamara's sin is envy. And that new minister, the pastoral care minister, her sin is anger." Out of the mouths of babes. Of course, on most days, if you asked me, "Are you angry?" I'd probably say no. And it would be a lie. The truth is, I'm a 50-year-old woman who's just learning how to accept and live with my anger so it doesn't burn me or the people around me. Many of us may be feeling hot and angry this morning, and others may be wondering why. Was Zimmerman found not guilty? A fire deep inside that smolders most of the time may be burning this morning. There is a righteous anger we feel. I've been angry for a long, long time. Not always vocal about it, though. I'm angry about the money we find to fund foreign wars, but we can't seem to find to fund local schools, right?
Right.
And I'm furious at the persistent and painfully high rates of domestic violence and rape when awareness was raised so long ago. And I'm frustrated by the current trend in gun laws, like the Stand Your Ground law in Florida. That makes me angry. Okay. And I know you're angry. And we can rage together. And I imagine some of us will be sharing our pain and our sorrow and our frustration at the verdict today. Some would call it a healthy anger, and we've got some of that. Long ago, we called it prophetic anger. Sometimes I call it safe anger. Let me tell you why. Whether you're a conservative or a liberal, underneath it all, tucked in beneath the fury, is the pain.
That's right.
And the profound sadness.
That's right.
And you know, someone will understand what you're saying and take your side. How can children be going to bed hungry in Tulsa night after night? It is an outrage. I should be incensed. I have a right to be irate. It's safe to tell people about our righteous anger, especially if we choose to tell the right people.
Right.
The people who will agree with us.
Right.
It's not completely safe, though, is it? There are two dangers I want to tell you about this morning with this kind of righteous anger. First, it burns quickly, and it leaves us depleted, even exhausted. Political change requires people who can do the work over the long haul. We can't burn up in flame and disappear like that. Second, it often scorches people close to us, even our allies in the struggle, leaving soot and ashes on those who dare to disagree with us even over the smallest details, which diminishes our chances of making real and lasting change. Self-righteous people don't tend to make great team players.
No.
And political change is a team effort. Righteous anger is also a paradox. Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. were masters at transforming their anger into action and motivating the masses to respond to injustice. In Freedom Ways magazine in 1968, Dr. King is quoted as saying, "Our supreme task is to organize and unite people so that their anger can become a transforming force." But it's when Gandhi and King used non-violent means that it became unbearable to others. Rage and rant if you must, but do not be dignified. We will kill you for that. It's peaceful resistance which disgusts the angry woman or man. So what about that other anger? Not the political, but the personal kind. The kind we all feel. The kind we only show at home or with close friends. The dangerous kind. Well, I've decided this morning that I'm going to share some of my mad list with you. That's all in capital letters here in my text. Just in case you're still arguing with me in your head, thinking things like, I don't know, I'm not really sure I'm angry, Barbara. My meditation or my prayer practice really does it for me. Or maybe there are some of you on the other side of the anger continuum who might be thinking, she thinks she's angry. What a joke. She has no idea how angry I am. Or been, what I've done, or what I'm thinking about doing. Truth be told, it was hard for me to write this list. I had to push and probe and persist because the prohibitions against naming and claiming my anger go deep and far back. But here it is. People are joining with me. That's good. Joining with me. At age 5, I realized my parents wouldn't always be there for me when I wanted them. I learned how to give people the silent treatment, even how to stop myself from smiling or receiving love at age 5. At 11, my father left our family. He suffered the classic midlife crisis, quick remarriage. I was so angry, I went along with everything. Excuse my language this morning. I was powerless and pissed. By 16, my body had changed, and boys and men started paying all sorts of attention to me. I was confused, attracted, and repelled by my own feelings and actions. Images in the media and patterns in my family made me sure my body wasn't good enough. I decided love wasn't worth it and swore I'd never have a relationship with anyone. In my late 20s, stressed out and struggling from juggling work and family, I worried about how I expressed my anger with our girls. I was supposed to be the one teaching them to count to 10, right? But I was the one who needed to count to 20 and 30 and 40. What is it they say? Becoming a grandparent is the reward for not killing your children. I'm still waiting for the reward. In my 30s, I was so frustrated, hurt, and angry with my husband, I was ready to divorce. I didn't care who was leaving first, as long as someone was getting out. In my 40s, I started some real therapy. In my 50s, well, here we are today. I'm ready to name and claim and frame, and when I need to tame my anger. My sin all along has been not that I feel anger, but that I didn't know how to focus my anger. Instead, I hid it, and because it's what it is, a powerful and intense energy, it burned me up from the inside out. Not, you gotta listen to me now, not that we should all just let her rip. And I don't know how vice and virtue and violence and anger are mixed up in your lives. Anger is life-threatening. Expressed and repressed anger can kill. Suppressed anger often turns inward and leads to depression, sometimes even suicide. Too much anger leads to high blood pressure and heart problems. Acted out, it leads to emotional abuse and physical violence. Dr. Brenda Shoshana writes in her book, The Anger Diet, anger is a serious problem for 1 in every 5 Americans, and there are more than 5 of you in each and every pew right here, right now. Road rage, workplace violence, school shootings, domestic abuse, and addiction are just a few of its many expressions. The reason such a large number of our nation's citizens are on antidepressants, suffer from alcohol and drug addiction, are overweight and broken relationships, and involved in all kinds of destructive behavior can be directly traced back to the effects of anger, particularly the hidden kind. Because I believe sin is what separates. Sin is what disconnects us from ourselves, each other, and our God. And salvation is what reconnects us to ourselves, each other, and our God. Then our unavoidable experiences of anger are both our downfall and the antidote to our despair. Right. Anger can destroy and repair. Anger is a catch-22. The key, what makes a difference, is awareness and acceptance and agency. The difference is awareness and acceptance and agency, knowing how to work with it so it doesn't hurt you or anyone else. The only way to become the master of your own anger is to first know what it feels like. One woman, when she was leaving the first service, told me she started getting stomach cramps and irritable bowel syndrome in the middle of the sermon. She said, "That's my anger. That's how I know I'm angry." Second step is to accept those feelings as normal, healthy responses to perceived threats, whether they're real or not. Third, you need to identify what your anger is telling you about what you want. Because if you're angry, you're probably not getting it. Right. And then you have to find ways to express it. It's got to move through you, or it gets stuck and it eats you up, and you might just get what you want. Rolling Stones notwithstanding. Ignore your feelings and they have power over you. Acknowledge your feelings and you have power over them. Even anger, especially anger. So I was amazed to discover this week, studying anger, something in my reading that I found going back to the Bible. I discovered that the first time the word sin appears, it's in the book of Genesis, but it's not right at the beginning. It's not in the garden. There's no hint of original sin. It's actually the Hebrew word ketas, which means to go astray or to lose one's way, and it's in chapter 4, in the story of Cain and Abel. The first time sin appears, it appears with the concept of anger. You know the story. Cain gets angry because God seems to favor his brother Abel, and I thought I knew the story too, but I heard it a little differently this time. God says to Cain, "Why are you angry, and why has your countenance fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin is lurking at the door. Its desire is for you, but you must master it." Now, when I first heard the Lord's words, I heard them this way. "What are you so upset about, Abel? Just keep on working hard. Maybe next time you'll do better. You'll have another chance." I don't know about you, but I can seethe in sympathy with Cain over those words. I can even get angry with God. What on earth or in heaven are you thinking? How can you be so cruel? Just tell him his offering is good enough so his feelings won't be hurt. Right. All this judgment, really, can't you take it a little easy on the poor man? He's doing his best. Back off. And then I listened again. Why are you angry? Katas is at your door. You are at risk of losing your way. You must pay attention to your feelings. What if God isn't talking about the future at all? Sometime Cain can come with another offering and make up for his present failure. What if God is only talking about the present moment? Abel just got a little recognition, a bonus. Not everyone gets a bonus on the same day or even in the same year. And I listened and I heard God's voice again saying, "Hey, kid, I see you're upset, a little envious, perhaps have a natural competitive streak, do you now? That's okay, but watch it. That righteous stuff will get you in trouble every time. When you feel like this, and I see how you feel, Katath is crouching at the door. You haven't done anything wrong yet, but if you let your feelings get away with you, things will get worse. Of course I love you. I always will. Do you hear me? You have what you need to master it. The choice is yours. Ignore your feelings and they have power over you. Acknowledge your feelings and you have power over them. Tandeka, one of our great living theologians, says we come together in religious community because of what we share, not our beliefs, but our feelings. As in, I feel like giving up. As in, I feel numb. Things have been so hard for so long, I can't feel anything anymore. I'm so frustrated, I'm afraid what I might do. Maybe I better go to church this Sunday. We come together in religious community because of what we do feel, what we don't feel, and what we want to feel. This legacy of the 7 deadly sins, the religious language that's been passed down to us through the centuries, is an attempt. It's an attempt by philosophers and theologians, mostly all male, to interpret and make sense of the world of feelings. It's about time some women got into the game, don't you think? Just saying. Some women just got to get angry. especially if you haven't gotten angry in 30, 40, or 50 years. In her sermon on envy, Tamara said the 7 deadlies are sins of the flesh, and that if you have flesh, you're a sinner. And I agree, because if you have flesh, you feel. It's why we are lovers and fighters, and often both in the same relationship. The closer you are to someone, the more vulnerable you become, the more you need from them, and the more there is to lose. Cain and Abel were brothers. My sister and I, who's here this morning, my sister's here this morning, my sister and I are still working in our 50s to free ourselves from our inherited good girl and angry bitch roles. Both of which leave us feeling frustrated, misunderstood, and incomplete. Am I right?
Right. You got both of them.
So if there's safe anger and dangerous anger, hear me? If there's unhealthy and healthy anger, how can we tell the difference? And how do you even know how angry you are? As I said at the beginning, I would have told you if you asked me. I'm not angry, not me, not me. And it would have been a lie. So I have 2 questions for you right now, which I hope will help you understand, wherever you are on the anger continuum, your own relationship to anger. If I asked you right now, are you angry, and you reflexively and politely said no, would you be lying? And what are you angry about? Is it the cancer? Or the Alzheimer's? Or your boss? Over the past few years, you've invited me into your lives. We've sat and talked, and I've seen myself in your stories of relationships lost and salvaged and saved, picked up and put back together from the broken pieces. We've worked together to sort through what kind of anger you were feeling. Was it productive or destructive? Is this anger holy or harmful that I'm feeling now? It's an important question. Writing this week made me think of stories you've told me. Makes me think of Susan and Sam, both on their second marriages. They will do anything to feed the hungry. They are super volunteers, spending hours preparing and serving food, even though it kills her feet. And his own children sometimes accuse him of loving other people's kids more than his own grandkids. But she won't stop doing it, because there wasn't enough food on the table for her own kids when she was married to her first husband, the guy who gambled away everything they had. And he won't stop, because he managed a grocery store most of his life, and it still breaks his heart to see how much food we waste every day in this country. And there's John, who can't tell his boss he needs him to stop micromanaging him because his dad got so angry at him when he was a kid. Any little taste of a challenge or a conflict makes him see red, just like that. And there's Jamie, who loves her daughter so desperately, she kicked her halfway across the room when she found out she was using again. Jamie was a heavy drinker when she was young, but she's been in recovery for more than 20 years now, and it hurts too bad. If we were sitting in my office together right now, I would ask you, how does it serve you to be angry now? I've got to assume at this point in my life that we are all angry people. Sometimes I even wonder if we aren't so committed to social justice work because we have this endless storehouse, this well, these reserves of repressed and unexpressed anger. Because someone told us long ago anger was a sin in one way or another. I don't think I pissed them off. I don't think that's why they're leaving. Because someone told us long ago anger was a sin in one way or another. You're too loud. You're too sensitive. You're too demanding. You're too angry. Stop it. We're not bad because we're angry. I'm not bad because I'm angry. It's okay to channel our personal anger into our work for justice. It is Gandhi, who won independence for India by transforming his own experiences of racism into a nonviolent movement, who said, "I have learnt through bitter experience the one supreme lesson, to conserve my anger. And as heat conserved is transmuted into energy, even so our anger controlled can be transmuted into a power that can move the world. Our work will be more effective when we're doing what we do because we're grateful and determined, not irritable and resentful. And we'll be happier and more peaceful people too." So whether you're a person who never feels anger and blames himself for everything that goes wrong in his life, and I know some of you are like that, so don't think you can hide, or whether you're a person who feels angry all the time and blames everyone else in her life for everything that goes wrong, and I know there's some of you out there too, and I hope you noticed the gender pronouns, because the gender stereotypes really don't pass the test of any people I know. We all need practice working on our anger, rather than letting our anger work us. Anger tells us what we want. Healthy anger is accessible, it's moving, not stuck. We're naming it, writing about it, telling people about it, confessing it. You can work with it. You can pick it up, toss it around, look at it from different directions. You've spent time getting to know it and are willing to look it in the eye. Healthy anger flows out from inside of a broken heart. Unhealthy anger is hidden. It's solid and heavy. Usually under pressure, it sneaks up on you, and sometimes it may be easier to feel sad instead of mad. You have trouble naming it or claiming it, which makes it impossible to tame it. It's hard and lifeless like lava. It has no compassion for self or other. Anger runs deep in our psyches, like oil runs deep in the veins of the earth in this part of the world. Our wells of emotion are large and hidden and valuable. If you're angry because you feel put down, you may want respect. It's good to want respect. If you're angry because you feel misunderstood, you may want to be heard, and it's important to be heard. If you're angry because you feel helpless, you may want more power, and you can use power for good. If you're angry because it hurts too much, you may want comfort and relief, and we all need comfort and relief. Undiscovered and untapped, these reserves of anger are useless. Brought to the surface without a plan or a system, they can be dangerous, but anger isn't the enemy. Anger isn't a sin. It's a fuel that can propel us into a new life and a new reality. Even now, this morning, especially this morning. You know what's worse than anger? Indifference. So many marriages finally fall apart because people stop letting themselves feel. It hurts too much. They can't care or keep trying. If you are angry, you still care. I'm angry because I care. Anger isn't the enemy. Apathy and cynicism are. There are deep oil reserves in this part of the country, and there are deep and powerful emotional reserves of anger in this congregation. Our work then, if you'll do this work with me, is to become emotional geologists, if you will, to figure out what's lying beneath our own surface so we can harness anger's energy to fuel transformation, so we can respond instead of react, so we can be curious instead of furious. We can't afford to allow anger's raw, unrestrained power to destroy us or to silence us. So if you're curious with me about your own anger and you want to keep going with this, I would invite you each day this week to keep track of what makes you angry. It doesn't matter how trivial you think the event is, it all counts. What you may hear on the radio or in the local news, that counts. The driver who wouldn't let you onto the highway, that just happened, that counts. The child who screamed at you at the top of her lungs, I hate you and I'll always hate you, that counts. Your ex who wouldn't return your phone calls or your emails or your texts or your smoke signals, that counts. Your anger is your own personal data bank. You are the geologists who have to collect and sort and interpret the information. When you finish your list for the day, read it over and ask, what made me angry? What lies below the surface of my anger? How did I react or respond? What were the consequences? And what would I like to do next time? And if you liked my mad list, you might also want to take some time to do it decade by decade. What made you angry when you were younger than 10? When you were 15, 25, 35, and on? Look at that list and think about what you know about your own anger already. Did you get what you were after when you expressed or repressed your anger? How does it serve you to remain angry now? Anger can be armor or fuel. It's up to you. People who wear their anger like armor to protect themselves from pain, to keep pain out, also lock pain in. People who accept their own anger and take responsibility for it can refine it and use it. My anger and your anger, our individual and collective angers, are a precious, valuable, invaluable resource for us and the world. So let me close by telling you what I want. I want us to use this sanctuary week after week as a refinery for our feelings, all our feelings. So together we can create new, beautiful, green, powerful fuel together, so we can use it to transform our lives and the world. May we burn brightly together without getting burned ourselves or burning each other. Can I get an amen? Amen. Amen.